say good afternoon to everyone. Good morning. No, it's afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody who came. I wanted to just introduce myself. My name is Donald Frazier. I'm the Executive Director of BOSS, also known as Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency. We have an all-star guest list here today, and I just want to welcome, before they come up, Sister Elaine Brown, who's going to be doing a master class here. The artist who painted the mural, Deandre, is here, as well as Malik, artist and activist, who's going to speak and share some knowledge with us as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about BOSS, and I want to welcome our live stream audience out there. Give us some love, show us some love, send in those donations. I want to welcome our folks who are here. Thank you very much for coming. I want to tell you a little bit about BOSS. So BOSS has been around for about 50 years. After a long-term executive director retired, and primarily BOSS was focused on homelessness and housing. We went out in the community to see what the community needed and what the community wanted, and these are in the cities that we do business in. What came up for us was people who are transitioning out of jail and prison needed resources. They needed housing, needed job opportunities, and a lot of other supports. What the other thing that came up was around community violence, specifically in Oakland. So we went back to the round table and came up with a lot of ideas about how we thought and how we think we could solve some of these problems. From there, we just expanded and brought on reentry and criminal justice programming and brought on community violence programming, specifically around violence interruption and outreach. So we've grown. We got about 16 properties across Alameda County and 4 of the district supervisory districts in the county. That's District 2, Richard Valle, District 3, Wilma Chan, District 4, Nate Miley, and District 5, Supervisor Keith Carson. And we continue to grow because the need is there, right? And it continues to grow. One of the things that we are in terms of our identity and how we present ourselves, we unapologetically are representative of the black community. The reasons why is because in the system of care in Alameda County and every other county, quite frankly, black people, if you look at from a medical perspective or in a healthcare perspective or poverty, we're at the bottom. And in this system of care, black folks are overrepresented based on the number of black folks that actually live in Alameda County. So we're 10% of the population and representing over 60% in incarceration. We're 10% of the population in Alameda County and represent almost 50% of homelessness. We're 10% of the population in the county and represent more than 60% of homicides and shootings, and suicides, by the way. So the need for our work is there, and we're here to do it. I want to say one of the reason why we're here, primarily after the introduction to BOSS, is really to kind of celebrate art, culture, and political education as the benchmarks of black liberation over the years. And the truth of that is, if we look at all of our entertainment, all of our artists, and within our culture, and the political education that came through organizations like the Black Panthers and other organizations that loved our people to a point where they needed to give us political education in order to get our minds right so that we could move forward. We continued that in BOSS, where before COVID, we were meeting at Humanist Hall in Oakland, where we had political education and restorative justice classes and cultural awareness classes with our staff and with some of our participants. Sister Elaine Brown was helping us out with those as well, because we understand that if you don't understand the policies that have been created that are impacting our lives on a daily basis, then we're forever lost, right? So I want to bring up Deandre, the artist who painted the mural, and we'll have an unveiling a little bit later, just so Deandre can say a few words about why he painted the mural. And he's hiding in the corner on the couch. Maybe I'll bring the mic to you, Deandre, if you want to. But come on up, man.
How you guys doing? Thank you for coming out to come see this mural that I did. I'm not really good at public speaking. That's why I'm an artist, because I don't talk or sing, but I could paint. So I'm just really honored to have the opportunity to do this mural here, which has so much significance, not only to this program, but the people in this mural have a lot of significance and a lot of meaning to me through my journey in life. And so I think that's about pretty much what I have to say. If anybody have any questions or anything before the unveiling, while I'm here, you can ask me a question and I can answer it better than I can freestyle about the significance. Yes, sir. I airbrush all day, every day. I've been doing it for a while. Honestly, it wasn't anything really challenging. The most challenging part was just coordinating it with exactly how it should be done with Mr. Frazier here. that was the most challenging. Because I've been my own boss for so long, I'm used to just doing what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. So this time I had to answer to somebody. So that was challenging. Yes, sir.
That's actually my question. Knowing that you had done this for someone, did you have a personal inspiration or a personal connection to this work?
I have a personal connection to almost every person in this mural because for those who don't know, I was incarcerated for approximately 9 years. So almost every person on this wall, I've read about, I've studied, I know, I've took inspiration from their lives and added to my lives to help me move forward to be the person that I am today. That's it. Thank you for coming out.
Right on, Deandre. I don't think I was that challenging, but I'll take that. But honestly, this was Deandre's. He worked within my vision. I just had a very broad stroke in terms of what I wanted, in terms of our revolutionaries are being represented, and he came up with the design. But it was some back and forth. I ain't gonna lie. So when I want to next ask Brother Malik to come up and say a few things. I know that he's here, and you're a powerful brother, man. I want you to just come up and say a few things. Malik.
All right. Thank you. All right. I don't want to bend down to the mic, but can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace, power, and creative prosperity. Can I call my brother back up? Give him a round of applause, please. Come on up, brother, please. My brother right here.
I thought it was over.
No, it ain't over until it's over, my good brother. I just want to first say that this brother, I've been knowing him for a long time, even before he got out. Am I right, brother?
Right.
And I think when the brother just got out, we met at a place called the Java House. Is that right? And the brother came to me, he was like, man, you just never know how the creator works, right? And so he came to a show that I was doing there, and he was like, man, I've been seeing your work for a while. I was like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah, I saw your work. Was it a Bayview newspaper?
Right, yep.
Bayview newspaper. And he was like, man, I just got out of jail, and I've been, you've been inspiring me to do my work and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, what's your name? And he told me your name. I'm like, man, I've been watching your work at the Allen spot.
Expressions Art Gallery.
Yeah, Expressions Art Gallery. And the brother has a beautiful hand. Please give him another round of applause. Yeah. So this is the type of work I've done my entire life. I was highly affected by the circumstances of growing up in the projects in San Francisco, California. And, I've done all types of projects, working with youth, working with people. I see we got Mick Gardner. Can you give him a round of applause as well? You may not know him. Me and Mick Gardner work together. Thank you, brother. Ready to go now. You've been like, man, I'm cool. The real thing about having our ancestors immortalized is a huge part of the culture that we need to take part in. And so in that right, I bow to you and to the boss Bay Area. Is that what it is? Is Boss Bay Area? I appreciate the work you're doing, man. And we have a lot of work to do. But the thing is that we have to give to our children the culture of being by how we uplift our elders and our ancestors. We have a great elder here. We have a great elder here, as you guys are going to see her, and you already know who she is. But, you know, it's not enough for us to just listen and see them, right? But it's to hear what they have to say and carry on the mission. And that's what's really important. I spent most of my life really connecting with elders and taking that to the canvas. So with that being said, I'm just honored to be here, and I want to speak on behalf of my brother, this mural here. You know, this mural is hugely a part of why we even call this Oakland the way we call it Oakland. The reason why we call this the Bay Area the way that we call it the Bay Area. I was from Bayview, Hunters Point. There was a shootout in 1967 that inspired many of the Panthers to carry guns on the streets of Oakland. So, you know, from that being said, you know, we have a lot of work to do today. And what's really important is that we raise up our ancestors. So what I'm doing today, for many of you may not know, today is the death that took place with Emmett Till. How many of you guys heard of Emmett Till? Well, his birthday was on July 25th, and I took a handful of youngsters from Hunters Point who didn't know anything about Emmett Till, and we studied and learned about Emmett Till. I have another project I'm going to be unveiling of George Stinney. He died at age 14 as well. The name of this project is Forever 14. Of course, we got kids all over that are just dying by the hands of the law and by the hands of our community because we're dealing with a lot of trauma. So with that being said, today I will be unveiling Emmett Till, and this will be an uplift of how we need to treat our children. So when we hear about his birthday next year, we celebrate his birthday, 14th birthday. And that's where the project Forever 14 comes forward, because he died 14. And so what I'm doing research around other youngsters who died in that manner for no reason at all. So we got a lot of work to do. Again, my name is Brother Malik Seneferu. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, without further ado, I want to call up Sister Elaine Brown. You know, we got some other folks in the audience. Brother Lauren Taylor, District 6 City Supervisor, City of Oakland Council Member. But Elaine Brown, I want to bring you up without further ado because I don't want folks to miss a minute of that knowledge that you're about to spit. I love you, sister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know this. I'm not positioned right. So if you don't know who I am, my claim to fame is that I was in the Black Panther Party. And that makes me historically significant, period. And I want to say that, you know, I'm happy to see everyone here. Wish there were more. I want to introduce my comrade and my young brother. Are we saying David or are we saying Lataro Newton Huey's nephew, who is with me today, and I'm grateful for that because the beat goes on, you know. I want to say, as always, all power to the people. And we're here to talk about this naming of this commemoration of Black August. So let's talk about the Soledad brothers, okay? I think we're taking questions, I don't know, after this. I don't know how long I'm supposed to speak, but this might be about 10 minutes, no more. And whatever questions you might have, I'm happy to answer. Just so you know, I not only come with this information from reading, knowing, and studying, as the brother said we need to do, but also from direct knowledge of both Jonathan and George and the struggle that became that you all, you know, suddenly decided to call Black August. So anyway, on January 13th of 1970, officials at California's notorious Soledad prison suddenly opened up the exercise yard for both black and white prisoners who had been separated and isolated for months before that. So you can see what the situation was at the time. Predictably, a fight broke out. A guard who was a marksman named Miller was on in a tower that was It's not known. Said it was, some people said it was, George said it was 30 people, said 13 people, whatever it was. He fired into the crowd on the yard, fired 4 shots and killed 3 blacks and wounded 1 white. So the blacks, and among the blacks who was killed that day on January 13, 19, okay, y'all got to cut the phones. The blacks that were included, including among the blacks, was George Jackson's heroic teacher, W.L. Nolan, a brother named W.L. Nolan, who was one of what George was calling the black guerrillas there, with whom he was attempting to, and this is important, as he said, transform the black criminal mentality into a black revolutionary mentality, okay? And that was their initial, purpose in forming and organizing themselves and other prisoners. The black inmates there went on a hunger strike and demanding justice, and 3 days later, the Monterey County grand jury exonerated the guard and said that the killing of the 3 black men was justifiable homicide. Now, that shouldn't shock anybody, obviously, but 30 minutes later, a Soledad guard named Mills was found dead, beaten and thrown over a 3rd-floor tier to the TV room floor. And this was George Jackson's cell block. And so on February 14, 1970, the same Monterey County grand jury that exonerated the pig that killed W.L. Nolan and the others indicted George and 2 other black inmates, Fleta Drumgo and John Cluchette, with first-degree murder of the guard. And they came to be known as the Soledad Brothers. Now, you may know a lot of this, but it's important to just revisit the pieces of this history because it's familiar, isn't it? And this is back in 1970. It's very familiar. So soon after that, George's book, Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson, was published, and George became a powerful voice for black people on both sides of the wall, for freedom fighters around the country. Dangerously, he was encouraging blacks to join the revolutionary struggle for black liberation, specifically citing Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party as his example. So I want to quote a little something from Soledad Brother, what he said: settle your quarrels. And think about how this might go today. Settle your quarrels, come together, understand the reality of our situation, understand that fascism is already here, that people are already dying that could be saved, that generations more will die or live poor, butchered, halved lives if you fail to act. Do what must be done. Discover your humanity and your love in revolution. Pass on the torch. Give up your life for the people. What a message. In Soledad, Brother George tears down the wall of silence about the suffering and the struggle of the black prisoner and exposes the racism and the fascism that dominate life in California and other U.S. prisons. With searing sentences, he condemned the conditions in Soledad's O Wing that led to the murder of W.L. Nolan and the others. The strongest men, he said, hold out for no more than a couple of weeks. Max Monroe in O Wing destroys the logical processes of the mind. A man's thoughts become completely disorganized. The noise, the madness streaming from every throat, frustrated sounds from the bars, metallic sounds from the walls, the steel trays, the iron beds bolted to the wall, the hollow sounds from a cast iron sink or toilet, the smells, the human waste thrown at us, washed, unwashed bodies, rotten food. When a white con leaves here, he's ruined for life. No black leaves Max Rowe walking. Either he leaves on the meat wagon or he leaves crawling, licking at the pig's feet. Now, this is the raw truth, isn't it? How beautiful and poetic, however. George went on to say the apologists recognize that these places are controlled by absolute terror, but they justify the pig's excesses with the argument that we exist outside the practice of any social codes of conduct. So since we are convicts rather than men, a bullet through the heart summary execution for fist fighting or stepping across a line is not extreme or unsound at all. An official is allowed full range in violent means because a convict can be handled no other way. George goes on and says most of the guard are KKK types. The rest, all the rest in general, are so stupid they shouldn't be allowed to run their own bath. How did all these pigs get through? Men who can barely read, write, or reason. It's the same here as on the street out there. Who has loosed this thing on an already suffering people, he asked, rather rhetorically. But what can we say about these asylums, since none of the inmates is ever cured, since in every instance they are sent out of the prison more damaged physically and mentally than when they entered? None who leave here will be normal. If I leave here alive, George says, I'll leave nothing behind, and they'll never count me among the broken men. How many can say that? So let's talk a little bit about Jonathan, the man-child. And I wrote a lot of songs back in the day. I see Donald has put a couple albums up here. One of those songs on that album is dedicated to Jonathan, saying, just as the refrain, you weren't there. You didn't see Jonathan. Or do you care? What do you mean? Jonathan, he was so young, picked up a gun. Jonathan, for a man was he. On August 7, 1970, 17-year-old Jonathan Jackson George's younger brother walked into the Marin County, California courthouse, the county in which by then George and the Soledad brothers were locked down in San Quentin prison. Jonathan strolled into the courtroom where San Quentin inmate James McLean was being tried on charges of attempting to stab a guard. He pulled an automatic rifle from the bag he was carrying, tossed other weapons to McLean and the other inmates there, two other inmates there, William Christmas and Rochelle McGee, and took over the courtroom. They tied a sawed-off shotgun to the judge's neck, tied up the DA, and 3 jurors, paraded them out of the courtroom before a gang of press cameras and demanded, free the Soledad brothers by noon. We can't even imagine that today, can we? We walk around here so pathetic. The revolutionaries conducted the judge, the DA, and the jurors outside to a waiting van. Jonathan got into the driver's seat, and all hell broke out. San Quentin guards and other pigs opened fire on the van. The judge's head was blown off. The DA was severely wounded and became a quadriplegic. James McLean and William Christmas were killed. Rochelle McGee, who remains incarcerated to this very moment, was wounded, and the beautiful man-child Jonathan was killed in his 17th year of life. But George was proud of the man-child, as he called him, and he began to write his second and last book, Blood in My Eye. The Soledad brothers were now facing a trial that would start August 23 of 1971. By then, Huey P. Newton, the head of the Black Panther Party, had named George the field marshal of the Black Panther Party. Blood in My Eye became a kind of handbook for waging guerrilla warfare against the state inside the United States of America. George completed that book only days before his assassination on August 21st, 1971, almost a year to the day of Jonathan's martyrdom. There have been many rumors, and fake stories and lies circulating about what happened at San Quentin that terrible day. The biggest lie was that George was attempting to escape, to run wildly across the yard and leap the prison wall to freedom. And there was this story about the attorney visiting him and bringing a gun into the prison with a wig to hide it under and so George could take it back to his cell and execute his escape plan. But one thing is certain. The state executed the beloved field marshal of the Black Panther Party that day, pierced his brilliant brain with their barbaric bullets. We all had blood in our eyes that day. On the other side, 3 guards and 2 white prisoners were killed in San Quentin's Adjustment Center that day. Their bodies reportedly found in George's cell. 3 other guards were shot and stabbed, but they survived. 6 Adjustment Center inmates were charged with the murders and the attempted murders and with aiding the so-called escape attempt by George. They became known as the San Quentin Six: Johnny Spain, Hugo Purnell, Luis Talamantes, David Johnson, Willie Tate, and Fleta Drumgo. The day after George's assassination, 700 prisoners at Attica State Prison in New York went on a hunger strike in protest, demanding what George had inspired, their rights as human beings. Weeks later, on September 9 of 71, over 1,200 prisoners at Attica, which had a 54% black inmate population, took over the prison in the name of George. They took 42 prison guards and other prison staff hostage, demanding better living conditions and political rights. Press from all over the world came to Attica to report on the events over the next 4 days and help negotiations with the prison. Many of the prisoners' demands were agreed to until then Governor Nelson Rockefeller ordered his state police to, quote, take back control of the prison. Dozens of state troops positioned themselves on a wall above the yard where the prisoners had built a kind of tent city and opened fire. Within minutes, the state police had shot and killed 33 inmates and 11 guards, wounding many others. At George's funeral in West Oakland on August the 28th of 1971, attended by many, many thousands of people, Huey Newton, the leader and chief ideologue of the Black Panther Party, delivered a eulogy that was a call to arms. And so I want to quote some of that because I think it's more relevant than anything I could possibly say. Huey said, George Jackson was my hero. He set a standard for prisoners, political prisoners, and for people. He showed the love, the strength, the revolutionary fervor that's characteristic of any soldier for the people. Today I say that although George's body has fallen, his spirit goes on because his ideas live. This was George's legacy, and he will go on. He will go on into immortality because we believe that the people will win. We know the people will win as they advance generation upon generation. What kind of standard did George Jackson set? First, he was a strong man without fear, determined, full of love, strength, and dedication to the people's cause. He lived a life that we must praise, no matter how he was oppressed, no matter how wrongly he was done, and he still kept the love for the people. And this is why he felt no pain in giving up his life for the people's cause. Even after his death, though, George Jackson is a legendary figure and a hero. Even the oppressor realizes this. To cover their murder, they say that George Jackson killed 5 people, 5 oppressors, and wounded 3 in the space of 30 seconds. And Huey says, you know, sometimes I like to overlook the fact that this would be physically impossible. After all, George is my hero, and I would like to think that it was possible. I would be very happy thinking that George Jackson had the strength, because that would have made him Superman. But George's last statement at San Quentin on that terrible day left a standard for political prisoners and for the prisoner society of racist, reactionary America. He demonstrated how the unjust would be criticized by the weapon. George said once that the oppressor is very strong, and he might beat him down, he might beat us down to our very knees, might crush us to the ground, but it would be physically impossible for the oppressor. I'm sorry, I have to keep my notes so I don't read the wrong thing. For the oppressor, pardon me, I don't know what's wrong here. Physically impossible. I don't know what happened here. And he said, so there are 2 kinds of death Huey talks about. There's a death that is very heavy, and then the deaths of those that fell that day in San Quentin will be lighter than a feather. Even those who support them now, he said, will not support them in the future because we're determined to change their minds. We'll change their minds, or else in the people's name, we'll have to wipe them out thoroughly, wholly, absolutely, and completely. I really wanted to read this quote because Huey talks about when we're down on our knees, and the oppressor will become very tired, then we will tear his kneecaps off. We will tear his kneecaps off. We will tear his legs off. We will tear his head off because that is how we know we will win. So that was the part of the eulogy that Huey gave that I'm afraid that I did not have properly in my notes. But in any case, I want to talk about what we have today. At the end of that, of course, he said, we'll change their minds or we'll wipe them out thoroughly, wholly, absolutely, and completely, all power to the people. Now today, we have people exploiting the use of the Black Panther Party revolutionary salutation, saying all power to the people, but not following the example that George set, that the Black Panther Party set, the example set by all the other Black freedom fighters we would celebrate and honor in this Black August commemoration. Today, we shout Black Lives Matter on Black Twitter. We beg the pigs, hands up, don't shoot. We say, defund the police. In the name of the suffering of our people, the police murders like that of Oscar Grant right here in Oakland, we formed charities and nonprofits to collect grants and contributions from guilty white people and opportunistic Negroes. Today, we spend time challenging the laws, creating petty shifts in what the pigs can and cannot do. More police body cameras, national list of police misconduct, the George Floyd law outlawing the police chokehold, filming police murders of our brothers and sisters from Oscar Grant to George Floyd in recent times instead of stopping them. We do not act in a revolutionary way. And here we could look to the example that Huey P. Newton set on 7th Street in West Oakland back in 1967. Ask me about it if you don't know. We act on fear, as Frantz Fanon said, fear of drawing the oppressor's blood. We turn on each other, forming fake street gangs that fight frivolously while the racist capitalists continue to control every block of our remaining communities, control every breath we breathe, continue to incarcerate and kill us at the highest rates. We do nothing about our poverty and the other manifestations of our ongoing oppression, leaving it to bootlicking black politicians and fake profiteering so-called progressive organizations. We become professional protesters who march in the street a few hours for this or that, go home, send out a Twitter celebrating ourselves, and eat a vegan sandwich. If we would celebrate what has come to be Black August, let us, in the name of George Jackson and Huey P. Newton and Jonathan Jackson and Nat Turner and all the other of our people who have fought and died for our freedom over these hundreds of years of our oppression, let us dedicate our lives to the freedom of our people, organized to fight and fight to throw off all forms of oppression, taking our example from the life of George Jackson and bring about revolutionary change, or as Huey P. Newton said, change their minds, or in the people's name, wipe them out thoroughly, wholly, absolutely, and completely. So I want to say in closing today that we remember you, George. And I can say personally, I remember George very well, having seen him in prison and visited him on the 19th of August, 2 days before his assassination. We remember your dignity, your power, your beauty, your commitment to our struggle for freedom, your courage in challenging this enemy state, this United States empire with your life. We remember the fear you drove through them with your singular strength. And we remember how your spirit soared that day, August 21st. So you gave birth to many soldiers, dangerous hero. We must remember you, and we must continue to fight in your name with your spirit. Long live the spirit of Comrade George. Luta continua, as we say. All power to the people. Thank you. Let me get my water. It's right there on that table, Lataro. Can you pass me that water? See that little bottle right there? Thank you. So am I taking questions?
All right. So I want to first of all thank Sister Elaine Brown,
I wanted to read that.
former chairman of the Black Panthers, author. She wrote this book, A Taste of Power, which is being made into a movie. She's an author, musician, and chief executive officer of Oakland and the World. And I want to thank you, Sister, for your partnership, for your love, and for your knowledge every day, all day. Yeah. So we're going to open it up for questions for anybody who have questions about anything and everything that's on your mind. Right on.
What advice would you give to a young sister that's interested in getting more involved in the movement?
What advice would I give to a young sister that's interested in getting involved more involved? Well, I'm not even sure where there's a movement going on. Somebody tell me. Is there an address I can go to? I think it's all in the ether world. Everybody twittering, tweeting, and all that kind of thing. And when you say young, remember that Jonathan Jackson was 17. So there's a lot of people that tell me, oh, well, you old now, and I am old, but I haven't died yet. You know what I mean? And so there's this whole thing about, well, we're young, and, you know, what we can do. Jonathan Jackson was 17, just like Bobby Hutton. So don't tell me that you're young if you're over 17, because we already did that, been there. Huey Newton was 24 when he founded the Black Panther Party. George Jackson was 29 when he was assassinated, already spent 11 years in the joint and educating our people and willing to give up his life in our struggle. So anybody claiming, well, we're young and we don't know what to do, you can't use your age anymore, okay? This ain't an age question, just like it's not a gender question, just like it's not a sexual orientation question or a pronoun question, because we done got tripping along in our identity issues and our personal expressions and all this shit as though we don't notice what is going on in the bigger picture among our people, as though we don't even have an our people anymore. So the first thing to do is recognize that there's nothing out here and go ahead and form it. Ain't nobody waiting. Ain't nobody stopping you. You know, when I used to come here, Donald asked me to come here and talk to some of the formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters. And here's City Hall sitting right over here. Now, half these people had no idea as to who the mayor was. Not that it really matters who the mayor is, but that the mayor exists and does the shit that the mayor does, you know, and the city council and all that. No idea, and it's right there. And have no idea as to the parameters of oppression. Living on where I have a spot, we're building 100% affordable housing for 30% income and lower, meaning really, really low income people. How about the fact that half those people at 7th and Campbell have no idea, and that's only blocks from downtown, right? Have no idea why they're not in control of 7th and Campbell. People talk about I'm from Ghost Town, as if you owned a block or a goddamn brick in Ghost Town. You don't own fucking Ghost Town, okay? You don't even control anything in Ghost Town. As a matter of fact, one pig with a gun with a 9-shot gun, a clip with only 9, not even 15, will come into the neighborhood and people be throwing down, they got Uzis. I don't know how to get Uzi, but another story. Throwing down the Uzi, telling on everybody, answering questions that nobody asked. Tell where your weed is, you know, all that. That's where we are. And so this whole concept of community violence implies that we're some kind of violent, insane people. No, we are an oppressed and poor people who are totally disconnected in some neighborhoods from what is really oppressing us. So we mad at the next person. How you looking at me like that? Let me beat up my woman. Let me jump on that nigga that looked at Hoobie Boo. Or I gave him a dime bag and he only gave me a nickel. I don't think they do dime bags anymore, but you know what I mean. That's kind of old conversation, I know. But, you know, you get the drill, though, right? It's the same issue, though, right? Arguing over some shit that you ain't even got a thing to say about because you really know you're not in control of any, but you're scared to death to take charge of everything and begin to organize around who is really responsible for your oppression. You can talk about defund the police all goddamn day long, but half the people in the community don't want to defund the police because they don't know where to go when there's police violence. Now, when we had the Black Panther Party, we patrolled for the police with guns. And by the way, sisters and brothers, when people got asked me about gender, it's like everybody who joined the Black Panther Party had to be trained on weapons, okay? So we didn't have that distinction. We had other distinctions, but none of them were along gender lines per se. But the point is that we have right there in so-called lower bottoms where I am, you have all this high poverty rate, you have all this other stuff going on. People are hungry, people are all this, and we're sitting here, you know, just not organizing. So for you, young sister, and everybody in this room is young to me with a few exceptions. Where's Lonnie? Is he still here? With a few exceptions, everybody here is young to me. So you don't have to ask anybody. But the one thing I would say that the model the Black Panther Party put down is that we were in the community. We did not have a downtown office where we collected nonprofit things or got charity money where we had to answer to people who then didn't want us to do certain things. You know what I mean? Government agencies, big foundations, and all of this. So if you just opened up a place for food and asked people, when we had free breakfast, as you know. That was an organizing tool. We weren't planning on being forever feeding breakfast, obviously. But we had an organizing tool, and that tool brought a lot of people to us. Then we could talk about the ideology. Why are you hungry? Have you any idea? I asked brothers who've been in the joint, why do you think so many black people are in prison? And people look at me like I've asked them to explain the Big Bang Theory. What do you mean? Why you don't know why you're in prison? What, you don't know that little Billy Bob did the same shit you did? and he ain't in prison, you don't know that if you stole some money, and you don't understand how much money Wells Fargo steals every day, and you should go, if you want to steal, you should go to Wells Fargo School of Theft, because your ass is not good at it. You ain't good at it. You're going into a store stealing a couple $100, a couple $1,000, whatever it is. It ain't no money. It's nigger rich, excuse my language. You don't have it, and you doing 20, 30 years on this. Because your gun went off and the whole bit, and then your partner snitched on you and blah, blah, blah. All of that. We need to be in our communities if we want to be organizing our people, the people that nobody's talking to, which is at 7th and Campbell, I assure you, and elsewhere. Not the people that are, the nice, easy people that got a little job. We need to be educating some of our people that are, it's like when you go into a bank and you see Shaniqua, she done finally got a job, now she gonna act crazy. It's like, oh no, we can't take this out. Girl, go on and give me that money. You know what I mean? It's like, do you follow me? We need to be educating our people that are giving out tickets here and say, look, don't be giving no black person no ticket. That's just some small shit you could be doing right now, right? All that, and begin to bring our people together. And of course, we need to build coalitions, not allies, because people think white people are their allies, so white people can serve them and bring them a little food and shit so they feel better about themselves, which is about as stupid as you can get, because you're defining yourself, by what white people do or think. And so we had coalitions. We had coalitions with an organization we helped to form called the American Indian Movement, AIM. And Leonard Peltier is still a political prisoner. You should know about that, right? And then we formed and helped to form the Brown Berets organization, Chicano organization in Southern California. And the Young Lords, a former gang, Puerto Rican gang out of Chicago. And even the Young Patriots, poor whites. I'm talking about some ridge-running, no-tooth, tobacco-chewing, no-shoe-wearing white people that will call you nigger in a minute, but they aligned themselves with Fred Hampton, and under the leadership of Fred Hampton, formed the organization, and together they fought for housing and won. So it's on you. I hate to put it to you like that, because in the end of the day, nobody's coming to get us. There ain't no programs out there for us. All that shit, whatever Biden's doing, if you can steal a little money from here and there, steal it. Who cares? Because they stole it from us. That's how they got it. And we're not even talking about the 250 years of slavery that we built up the entire economy of the United States that allowed them to separate from England and declare independence. It's like all these people talking about Afghanistan and have the nerve enough to talk about they want to find housing now for the Afghans who helped us. We don't even know why we were in Afghanistan. Half the people can't even spell Afghanistan. Don't know where it is if you put it on a map and put a pin on it. So we have to educate our people to liberate our people. So you can work with children, open something, but bring all the parents in, but be ideologically grounded in the concepts of the Black Panther Party put forward, and they're only reasonable, and that is revolutionary change. We cannot accept a capitalist model. Why? Because we were exploited by it. Why you want to repeat what was done to you to somebody else? Well, they did it to us. We're going to do it to them. We get all caught up in a lot of stuff. So I say open up a little spot somewhere in the hood, get some folks working with you, and believe me, you'll be surprised what you can do. And don't worry about it. Do your best, because the people will come if you make a place for them. That's all I can say. You were going to ask a question? Yeah. Wait a minute, are you saying still being able to do it?
Still standing.
I'm only kidding, I'm sorry.
Standing is an action in spirit.
Right.
And so I just want to thank you for that spirit and the same beauty spirit that you brought here back then, you still bring now. I want to thank you for that. I would like you to discuss, and I know that could be a long discussion, but the discussion is really about how they used the great organization work that we did and pitted us against one another, and that's what you see in the neighborhood. That's why you have the gangs in the neighborhood, to kind of keep the community pitted against one another from moving forward on the real issues.
Well, also there's a reason for that. It's a control factor, God forbid we should become united and bring some of these Uzis out and turn them around and be ideological. Huey Newton said that the gun is not necessarily revolutionary because the pigs have guns. It's the ideology, it's behind the gun that matters. Now, we still scared to talk about guns. Like we've been reduced to saying, well, they have guns and the good black people don't have guns. And white boys riding around here all damn day long with shit and they suit and tied up, suited and booted, as we say, and they got guns up the wazoo, right? But we scared to say anything about a gun, right? We really are. We've reached that point. We're back to, well, we have to, we can't do this thing violently. We don't mind the violence of the police. We don't mind the violence of not having any money or place to stay, living in a goddamn tent on the street, eating food when you get it. All that. We don't mind that. That's not violence. Of course it's violence. It's the murder of our people. Who is dying, not just of coronavirus, because we have to, that's a whole other conversation, but before this, we had the highest prostate cancer death rate in America, the highest breast cancer death rate in America, highest infant mortality rate in America. Why do we even have an infant mortality rate? And we're not dealing with this stuff seriously because we're so busy trying to figure out, A, how to survive on our own. Not only are we pitted against each other, but we feel like any minute now, I'll make money as doing something, and I'll get out of here, and I won't have to deal with this anymore. So we're not dealing with our own people. Now, I feel like I'm saying that what we have to do right now is to figure out ways to come together. We just do. And one of the ways is we always have to focus on love, the love of our people, the love of each other. Because if we don't, then we get focused on something else. People get jealous, people get petty, all that stuff. So that was what Huey was talking about. George, and Che Guevara said, a true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. We're not out here to hate others and kill them. We're out here to say, I love this child so much that if I thought you were going to come in here and touch this child, something bad is going to happen to your ass. That's the motivation. So when you have that motivation, and the collective becomes more collective. Now, how to do that is up to the people that are in this room who are leaders. Obviously, you wouldn't be sitting here on a Saturday afternoon listening to a lecture or something. You want to do something. So if you want to do something, take leadership. Just take leadership, set something up, and believe me, you can begin to do things. Yes, there are people who don't, but if they're at 7th and Campbell, now I don't know, do we have a gang over there? I don't know, people tell me there's a gang. Well, whatever they are, a little pop-up gang. Huh?
What's over there on 7th? Lower Bottom Boys?
Yeah, they got pop-up gangs, that's what I call them. Any minute now, they're all going to jail, and a new group will reform, or somebody will. So to this 5 years we've been out there, it was a vacant field. It was a vacant field, and we cleaned it up, and we put a new, we put a farm there. We have a farm there with 30-some beds of vegetables and so forth. It's cleaned up. We've created a business, all formerly incarcerated, $20 an hour. So in that time, from the time we acquired that property from the city, which had been vacant and blighted for 30 years, in that amount of time, we have never had a problem from anyone in the community. Nobody, except for people who want to be graffiti artists that, I would just love to see, because I'm trying to figure out why, get a life, do that shit somewhere else, and or whatever it is that you think. And it's not art, it's just, somebody's little statement about their own irrelevant selves. And, 15 minutes of fame on Twitter, 15 minutes on a Facebook page, and some graffiti. And that's your life. You're irrelevant. The first pig that comes along will jack you up, and you'll be in prison too. So, and that's what you'll be going to prison for, some shit like graffiti. So, but other than the graffiti artists who drop in, and we have film of them from our cameras, and have nothing else to do, but they're not from the community. They just rove around, I guess. Yeah, so but barring that, we have a fabulous relationship because we are the people, and they know that. We give away food. We got the vegetables there. And one quick story, also to your question, there was a sister from the neighborhood. She calls herself Miss Amazing Gail. Isn't that a wonderful name? She's Miss Amazing Gail. And she, in addition to everything else, she has some goats over on Campbell Street, behind a fence or something. I mean, I'm serious. She has goats. She feeds them Cheetos or something. Anyway, she'll come. The first time I met her, we were doing something. So we had the veg, we had food. We have grown, peppers and cucumbers and lettuce and collard greens and whatever you can think of. And she came by and said, say, let me have a pepper. And so I said, well, you can have a pepper, but don't tell everybody we're giving this away because we're trying to sell this shit, which doesn't sell for very much. Not like we're making a lot of money from it or any money. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing. Once you're embedded, in the community, the people there begin to see. So if there's a gang in that neighborhood or some kind of gang, we're not involved in any conflict because we're not presenting any conflict. We're presenting love. We're building something. And they get it, I assume. I assume they get it. Does anybody, I know this is too long, so any
No, you're good.
quick
It's
question?
Good. It's good. Good information.
One
Anybody
more?
else got anything for Sister Brown? All right.
Lauren, you don't have anything to
good.
say?
I do. We have a little bit more time.
We got time.
2 more minutes now. I won't speak so long. It's hot in here, though, huh?
Always great to hear you talk and just everything, all the history that you bring. My question is, what are your thoughts and advice for those who say are and have been trying to work within and change and transform the system that we know has been built on a foundation of oppression, but yet trying to work from the inside when that aspect of working from within, working from without, and how those two come together or not. What is your?
Well, there is no inside the system in the end of the day because the system is what is oppressing us. So you can't fix that. You can mess with it, but you can't fix it. Now, is it useful? Bobby Seale and I ran for public. Well, it's your show, brother. So the thing is inside the system. There are things that can be done to what we can call a survival program, like we had food programs. So there's money, but that's the biggest thing the quote unquote system can do, because you'll be so restricted and so fought by so many other people. By the time, for example, the struggle that was waged over the sentencing for crack cocaine and powder cocaine, remember that? 20 goddamn years. I think it was 20 years. It might have been more, right? And what was the result? Brother's been going to prison the whole time while we haven't, and got one little law changed, and it was like, instead of being messed up for powder cocaine, like crack cocaine, like we'll make the crack cocaine, the powder cocaine kind of even. Well, what the hell did that do to the black community? For 20 years, you want to waste my damn time. We ain't got no housing. We don't have nobody put any money. This city of Oakland has, West Oakland, we already know displacement, gentrification, but this shit didn't happen like in a vacuum. Actively, people were, the mayor, Elihu Harris, was the beginning of gentrification, a black man. Okay, let's not get it twisted. We had an all-black council at one point. Am I right? And we had people sitting up there eating fried chicken and thinking it was funny. Am I right or wrong about that? So they wasted years and let this developer come in. In West Oakland in 2014, there was what is called a specific plan, and the cities all have an existing, the city has a general plan, and then every neighborhood or group, they review things every 10, 15 years, something. They have a specific plan for what to do to develop the city. We need to know that stuff, right? Because it happens all around. We go, oh, they coming. We don't even know who they are, right? It's just they, because we know they is the man, him, whatever. So here we have West Oakland specific plan, and 400-some pages, paid $2 million for the federal government to do this study and have all these things like walkways, some bullshit like walkways, and, the West Oakland walk, touring walk. Who the hell is touring West Oakland when we don't have the money to raise our heads, So, but one thing on page 375 or something like that, there was a whole section on affordable housing, and it was like a paragraph, and it said, no new housing developer will be required to build any affordable housing. What a sellout statement. Nobody even noticed it. Not nobody. Some of us did. I went down, I protested, I carried on, I was by myself. I had black guys from West Oakland talking about, sister, you need to go sit with them white boys and want to put in more plants. I said, who the fuck you talking to? Excuse me, that's how I roll. I'm not, hey, I didn't get to be 78 because I'm a punk. Excuse the language of those of you who are politically correct. So the point is, this city, Lauren, all voted for the West Oakland specific plan, knowing that it didn't require any housing be built that was affordable. Knowing that these developers were going to build this big building over here in 14th and brought 40 stories up all market. Can't nobody afford to live in that building. I mean, people can afford, but it ain't nobody who's in the community. It's not built for us, and that causes us displacement. It causes the change of that's just one example. Now, if we had had one courageous city council person at the time, and we did not, they would have said, no, I'm not voting for this. They would have encouraged and pushed. So that's what has to be done. Somebody got to get out in front as an elected official or as a person in the system. I went to housing, and I have to say this. How did I get this property? How did this happen? I'm going to write a quick handbook on how you can steal property from the city. I'm serious, and I did this, and that's why I know. So Keith Carson, I made a little speech like this, and Keith Carson asked me, what would I do about reducing recidivism, right? How would I reduce recidivism? I said, well, these brothers and sisters coming out got to have money. That's the first thing. You ain't got no money. End of story. I'm going to hit somebody in the head. That's the end of that. Because I will hit somebody in the head. I will sell dope and everything else if I were young enough. You know what I mean? Everybody's on the block if you follow that, right? In the end of the day. So I said, well, Keith, you're going to have to go. Why don't you go to these big banks, Wells Fargo or Safeway, and have them give you 5 permanent jobs set aside for formerly incarcerated, and then you train them for whatever little job. What does it take to be a goddamn Wells Fargo teller? I say it's the same skill set as a McDonald's cashier. Pickles, no pickles. You know what I mean? Money in, money out. A teller don't require no goddamn education. That's why they have automated teller machines, because they just as fast as they faster. So, okay, nothing happened. So he called me later and he said, so Elaine, what do you think we should do? I thought about it. I said, well, have you gone to Wells Fargo with them and told them, you the county, you the bad county, you've got money in the bank, we'll take the money out if I can't get a pilot program. No, they didn't do, all right, well, I said, they need to have their own business. He said, can you do that? I said, sure, not knowing any way of how to create a business for anybody, much less formerly incarcerated. So I said, well, we need to have a place to put these businesses. I'm not going along up on the block on San Pablo where all that falling down property is owned by, slumlords and what have you. Where am I going to put these businesses? So I said, I know, I'll just find a property in West Oakland, Keith's district. I rode around in 2 days. I had 50-something vacant, blighted, empty lots. I didn't know anything about it. So anyway, it turns out I had to learn all this stuff, that the state of California has a tax law that says that where you have tax defaulted properties, and plenty of people have lost their properties, the tax collector can seize the property, put it up for auction, as you probably all know, right, and get the money to pay the tax. You lose your house, right? Somebody buys it for cheap, but they get the tax money. Or the tax collector can give the property to a nonprofit or a charity for a higher and better purpose. Well, hell, I like this one at 7th and Campbell. Who knew that was the very street, the very block where Huey Newton had come into the confrontation with the police? The very block between Campbell and Willow. Who knew? I didn't. So anyway, I went to Donald R. White, the tax collector. I said, give me the property. I'm a nonprofit. I've created that right quick. That's a no-brainer. You can go on Zoom. What's that? Legal Zoom or some shit. That takes about 2 minutes. And file that shit. You can make up anything you want. If that name don't work, just fix it up a little bit, whatever. And so now you got to get a board, all your friends, right? Now you got a nonprofit. Bam. So, at least for the moment, I got a nonprofit. Give me the property, Donald R. White. He said, I can't do that because the housing department. Now, these are all black people I'm talking about right now. Donald R. White. Can't give it to you. I go to the head of the housing department of the city of Oakland. What could she do? She's inside the system. Give me the property, I said. Oh, she got to whining and complaining about the other people owed her $800,000. That don't owe you nothing. You don't have no $8. You didn't give nobody. This ain't your money, sister. Look, the man ain't looking. Give me the property. She got to crying because you can see how it could be a little mean and crazy. I said, you crying. You don't know anybody in prison. Everybody black knows somebody in prison. Or else you really ain't black. There's something wrong with you. Where have you been? You either been there or you forgot about yourself, But if you don't know somebody in prison, where have you been? Did you come from the Caribbean yesterday? La-da-da. Give me the property. No, we can't do it. We have to get the money from these other people. They don't exist. The other people don't exist. They dissolve. Give me the property. I fought every single city manager, all black, Not one of them. They were so scared. I'm like, the white man ain't even looking. Go on and do it. Do you hear me? So when you ask about the people inside, they got to be ready to make a little minimum commitment. How you doing? Make a little minimum commitment. And they're not ready to make that commitment. They're not strong enough. You got a housing department that's so damn weak, led by a woman. I'm going to say this out loud because I ain't scared of nobody. I'm too old. What, somebody going to kill me? That was supposed to happen 40-some years ago. I'm on super borrowed time, right? What the hell? Then you got a sister from New York, head of the New York Public Housing Authority, who was scandalized by signing off and saying these places were all fixed and cleaned up, and they weren't, and who crept out of New York and became the head of the housing authority here, where she remains. Begged her to help us. I'm almost finished.
Take your time.
You asked me about people on the inside. They got to have some credentials to say, I'm going to stand. But as soon as they get in, I noticed there's some people that I supported. They stopped speaking to me because somebody said something about me. They didn't want to be affiliated with me. I give you $800. And now you want to act like you don't know me no more. When your ass didn't have nothing, you knew me. And now you're council member. We'll pass the thing. You're this, or you're the head of the Department of Hoobie Boo. You got a job because George Jackson bled. You didn't get a job because you smart. You didn't get nothing. All that we have is affirmative action, our action. We fought to get what we have. And the blacks who are in place can help us. But they got to have courage and stop being all wishy-washy and scared to, well, if I sign this. And I want to say to Lauren Taylor's credit, when we went and tried to get people to agree to ask or demand that Nancy O'Malley, I'm just trying to be somewhat polite. Nancy O'Malley, the district attorney who's been here since Oscar Grant was murdered, been the DA, she was in the office before that, long before, to reopen the case on one cop, Bart Cop, that killed Oscar, that participated in and was a co-conspirator in the murder of Oscar Grant, who refused to reopen this case. Nobody but Lauren Taylor said, I'll sign a letter and I'll go get everybody else to, and did do it, and send it to the DA. Can you imagine what she felt like the whole city council and told her ass, you better open up this case? That was very impressive. That's the kind of thing that can be done, but it has to be courage. You can't be sitting around here playing their game. You got to say this shit ain't right. But you also can't be a fake progressive and pretend that you're going to do something with rhetoric, and then when it comes down to the wire, I'm not getting a lot of help over here at 7th and Campbell. So we have to watch out who we're talking to. So right now, I think there are plenty of things people can do when they get in place. If they got a job at the post office, go on and let somebody have a few stamps. What the hell is wrong with you? You know, I mean, seriously, I can't imagine why black people get so suddenly conscious of rules and regulations when they get a little job, getting paid whatever they're getting paid an hour, and will keep you back more than anybody else. We have to show courage. And George Jackson is the kind of courage that we have to have. Nobody's asking people to give up your life. I mean, George was, and Huey was, and I might. But giving up your life doesn't mean dying. I'd rather see you live another day, to fight another day. That's what we say. We want you to live. Ain't nobody trying to die and just die a hard death at a young age. We want you to live, but you got to live to fight. So I guess that's the message. And I think you can do that as a person on the inside or on the outside looking in. The system will not change, but you can exploit and use and turn it around in such a way, I believe, that you can make some changes that will bring some relief, what we called back in the day survival, housing, food, clothing, the things that you need. Is that me, Ivana? Yes. Hey, how you doing, sis? I voted for you already. All right now, so that's nice to see you show up and come on out. Anyway, I want to say thank you for all your attention. Please take some of this stuff and use it for yourself. I'm still fighting, and I am still standing, you know. And we're out there at 7th and Campbell building affordable housing, but not fake affordable. It's all really, really low income, 100%. We got a community committee meeting coming up in a minute out over there, and we have Oakland and the world is for our because of what that happened with Keith. We Our mission is to create and launch and sustain businesses for formerly incarcerated, for ownership by formerly incarcerated and other what I call socioeconomically marginalized, in other words, black and poor people. So we have our farm, and we're getting ready to have our food truck launch, but it'll be out there today. And then we'll put 4 businesses that will be owned by formerly incarcerated in the site, which will be a fitness center, a restaurant, a neighborhood market where there's no food, unless you want to go to Mandela Foods. And there's no, and the other thing is a clothing, a retail, we're going to make some clothes and sell them. And so those are 4 businesses, but it's the model. It's the model. And lastly, I want to say this about, we have 100% zero net energy because we have 20,000 square feet of solar panels on the roof so that the people who will live there probably pay a bill of $5 or less. But they have all electric and clean things. We have a steel frame instead of wood. I was able to convince people that who want to tell me about the budget, blah, blah, blah. But I am the co-developer and co-owner, meaning my organization, Oakland and the World. And so this will be the first really 100% black-led, woman-led affordable housing and in West Oakland, in our neighborhoods, and it's for the people. So that is the legacy. That's the legacy I follow. It's the legacy of the Black Panther Party. And just so you know, Oakland and the World was a term of another organization that the Black Panther Party, we had a lot of nonprofits. One of them was called Oakland and the World Entertainment, and I actually brought that back up. And if you look at our logo, it's a globe, the world, and then there's a red star over Oakland. You should appreciate the red star over Oakland. Oh, all right, power to the people. Thank you.
Sister, I want you to stay up here. No, I want you to stay. Thank you, sister. I want you to stay up here with me. We're going to unveil the mural.
Yeah, the mural.
And it's what we're calling is the Arc of Liberation. And just to know, before we do the unveiling, I want to ask the staff to come up and take your places. We're going to pull it down. The idea is we basically stand on the shoulders of all of these revolutionaries who came before us. You can stand next to me. You can always stand next to me, sister. Anytime, any day.
Watch yourself. Might be dangerous.
So the point that we just need to recognize real quick, the Arc of Liberation that we're about to unveil is basically a pictorial of the revolutionaries that came before us. And the question for us is, what's next? What's next for us? I want to ask Deandre, there you are, brother, to be available to answer any questions that may come up, and if you want to speak on the unveiling as well.
You gonna make me speak again after as hard as it
Yes,
was
sir.
for me the first time?
This is your beautiful work, man. You gotta speak
Again?
All right, folks. 1, 2.